Warning, the following video features stunts performed either by professionals or under the supervision of professionals. Accordingly, Patrick CC and the YouTube community guidelines must insist that no one attempt to recreate or reenact any stunt or activity performed in this video. Also, this video is in no way trying to glorify the life or lifestyle of the subject, but rather document it for educational and artistic purposes. Bam Margera is a skateboarding and pop culture icon who shaped the childhoods of millions of kids around the world. He could be the second most famous skater next to Tony Hawk. By the age of 21, he was already a multi-millionaire stuntman and professional skateboarder known all around the world before the internet. He basically...
He was... see, I grew up in New Jersey, right? Dan's game that if you want to. Go crazy. And where I grew up, Pennsylvania is right next to us, right? Idolized is the word. My friends idolized Bam Margera. They were obsessed with him. They loved him. They wore everything like him. They wanted to be like him. They did not listen to the viewer discretion shit. They would hurt themselves all the time. They loved that shit.
He invented the formula for viral stunt videos and pranks that are still used today, but none of this came without sacrifice. He put his family and friends through hell for money and fame. He developed multiple bad habits with you-know-what. He had complicated relationship issues with multiple individuals, and once he lost his lifelong best friend Ryan Dunn in a fiery car crash, his whole life spiraled out of control. Even in 2022, it's still looking bleak for Bam. Bam's father Phil was obsessed with the home video in the 80s.
Wait, that was actually his dad? I always thought that was fake. It's actually his family?
He recorded everything Bam and his brother Jess did all around Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is
see, I'm right there, baby.
Where they were from. He had a giant camcorder that sat on his shoulder and loved the idea of filming. They would play all sports, but once Bam got a skateboard, he found his true passion. And his parents never made him do anything. No chores, no responsibilities. It was all fun all the time. Every weekend, his father would take them to skate spots and skate parks all around Pennsylvania. They would skate all day and watch what they recorded all night. By the time Bam was 10 years old, in 1989, he was known at a local skate park called Cheapskates as a very talented young prodigy.
Pennsylvania had such good skate parks that people from New Jersey were going over to Pennsylvania. Like, we would drive an hour when I had, like, my 3 months of skateboard phase. We would drive to Pennsylvania for their fucking skate parks. They were so good.
He met Bucky Lasek there, who was an 18-year-old pro skateboarder. He also met his longtime best friend Brendan Novak at this skate park. Bam wanted all his friends in the neighborhood to watch his skate videos, but not all of them thought they were interesting. So he thought it was a good idea to put bloopers and goofy things that he did on camera in the video. He realized the funny moments are what kept people interested in his skate videos, which would end up laying the foundation for basically his whole
turkey
career.
Sausage.
In 1992, at age 13, Bam got sponsored by a local shop called Fairman's. It wasn't anything crazy. They were just getting 2 free boards a month and some wheels. But it was enough to legitimize his skating. Every single day was skateboarding.
Sick.
His parents...
Dude, you get a sponsor like that, you're bragging to everyone in school that you're sponsored, dude. That's the coolest thing in the world.
Just let him go. Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore. If there was a skate competition or an event anywhere within 4 hours, Bam and his friends were there. If people were filming, Bam did whatever he could to get a trick in the video. This is why he became so well known in the skate community. He was a badass little kid who was in every team skate video on the East Coast. He would daydream in school and was diagnosed with ADD because he didn't pay attention. His mind was fixated on skateboarding and videos. On the first day of 10th grade, he realized school was no longer for him. He dropped out and never looked back. Bam's friend Mike Maldondo was sponsored by a company called Toy Machine, which was a California-based company. Once Bam dropped out, he went right to LA to skate with professional skaters in the mid-90s. He wanted to be immersed in the culture and of course make a name for himself. So any idea he had, he attacked it head on. Any trick he wanted to land, he didn't stop until he landed.
Is skateboarding still as popular as it was back then? I don't know. Is it, chat? No.
Landed it. His drive and passion was infectious.
Scooters are popular today, right? Kids like scooters and shit. They like scooter clips.
Which is what kept people around him. But he was also funny as hell, doing anything to make his friends laugh. Since they kept a video camera on everything they did, the skits ended up being more interesting than his skating. And Bam realized this, so he leaned in. His videos ended up being about 50% stunts and 50% skateboarding. But there was a major cultural shift happening in LA, something called Big Brother magazine. Skateboarding had a big popularity boom in the 80s, but it didn't culminate to this big mainstream success right away. In the 90s, people weren't sure where it was going. Tony Hawk was basically the only skater making money from competitions and selling merchandise. But being a professional skateboarder was not a lucrative
Tony
career.
Hawk's
It
so
really
cool.
just became a lifestyle. And Steve Rocco, founder of multiple skate brands, decided this counterculture needed a publication. Big Brother magazine documented mostly skateboarding, but also anything that the mainstream wouldn't. Nothing was off limits, and it quickly built a cult following because kids adopted this sort of rebellious thing that their parents hated. It was raunchy, crass, and in your face. The lead editor was Jeff Tremaine, who was in charge of finding good stories and documenting them. He would just be around California and follow around skateboarders and document the crazy lifestyle that people were living. Back before the internet, people weren't documenting crazy stuff for views. They didn't make money off these things. They were actually just living crazy, rebellious lives because that's who they were. In 1996, Jeff Tremaine worked on putting out a Big Brother branded video called which followed the same format as a typical skate video but featured a bit more antics than normal, partying, naked people, and living a reckless lifestyle. The most famous skit was Wee Man painted all blue messing with people on the streets in LA. This video was such a huge success in local skate shops, and they immediately worked on the second one, which was called Number 2. This video was much more organized, way better skating, still depicted the crazy lifestyle but had better skits. Johnny Knoxville made his debut in this video where he performed multiple crazy stunts.
What a
the
god.
magazine and now both videos ignited a fire in Bam. He was already doing stuff like this, and now he knew there was a market for it. He knew he can compete and make something of the same caliber. Thus, CKY was born. By the way, double check and make sure you're subscribed. Might as well slap the like button and take a sip of water. Stay hydrated.
Dude, he keeps telling me that, and he's fucking right, chat.
Bam had been making videos since he was a child, so his vision for what he wanted to create was easy. He just needed more bodies. Kids in the neighborhood wanted to be in his videos, but they couldn't skate, so they became his stuntmen, trying to impress each other to see who could do the crazier stunt.
Oh my
Constantly pushing
fucking
the limits
god!
of what their minds could imagine and torment their bodies could handle. One of the most notable being Ryan Dunn, who would become arguably the whole reason Bam's life fell apart. They spent every day together coming up with crazy ideas that would get laughs out of people. When Bam turned 18 in 1997, he became teammates with Mike Maldonado, getting his first professional sponsorship with Toy Machine. Shortly after came a Thrasher cover, an official part in their video, and he was certified in the skate world. In March of 1999, 20-year-old Bam Margera would do the biggest thing he had ever done. Land Speed presents CKY. Finally, all those videos of Bam and his friends shit up and skateboarding made it into a production. But the way Bam edited the film was actually so forward-thinking because they cut out all the fluff. It was just crazy moment after crazy moment. It was basically like a fails compilation or a people doing stupid things compilation way before YouTube ever existed. CKY was the name of his brother's band. The video served multiple purposes. It was to promote the music, and it featured a ton of music from his brother's band. It was to show these crazy stunts from his friends, and of course gnarly skate clips to show off Bam skating. Land Speed was the name of a skateboard wheels company, which was owned and distributed by Tum Yeto. Tum Yeto also owned Toy Machine, so Tum Yeto did the distribution for this movie in as many skate shops around the country. It was a huge hit. Bam was getting recognized at every skate park he went to and started to become a bit of a celebrity. It made him realize that he never actually looked into the financial aspects of the film, because Bam wasn't making that much money from it, but he was being recognized all over the country. Turns out, Todd Swank, owner of Tum Yeto, was ripping off Bam badly. To what degree, we don't know. But we do know that Bam left Toy Machine because of this, got a new distribution company to release the film, which was called VAS. They dropped the Land Speed Presents and actually edited out some clips that included Tum Yeto references. Then when they redistributed the film, Bam got a check from VAS for $1 million. Turns out they sold around 400,000 copies, and Tum Yeto wasn't sharing any of the money with Bam. CKY1 and CKY2, which was released in 2000, 1 year later, became cult classics in every high school in America. There was no...
They didn't know this. I was too young. Did you guys know this shit? You're too young.
Nothing like this that existed anywhere. Sure, the Big Brother movies were pretty rad, but CKY had way more chaos, way better pranks, and way better entertainment.
You knew about CKY?
They were more popular because it gave off this vibe of like me and my friends just f***ing around town, doing crazy stuff, which is something that I'm sure a lot of kids in the 90s could relate to. Whereas the Big Brother films felt like this is this crazy LA lifestyle that I'm so separated from that I have no idea and I'll probably never experience. After the monumental success of CKY, Jeff Tremaine, the writer and producer of the Big Brother films, reached out to Bam. He had been covering Johnny Knoxville, Chris Pontius, Wee Man, and Steve-O for a little while now, and he knew they would be the perfect match for the CKY guys. Jeff invited Bam out to LA and introduced him to Knoxville. They brainstormed the early foundation for Jackass, in which Tremaine was going to pitch to his childhood friend Spike Jones, who was a well-established Hollywood director that began his career in the skateboard world.
It was like Tony
Hawk. They spent a few weeks putting together a pilot that would be pitched to the networks, which never got released publicly, so we don't don't know what stunts they did. We can imagine it was pretty rad. And it turns out MTV ended up picking up the show. They spent the summer picking out what CKY footage to use, and on October 1st, 2000, the first episode aired on MTV, and it was a smash hit. Nothing like this had ever been on TV before. Bam, Johnny Knoxville, Ryan Dunn, Wee Man, Chris Pontius would do anything. Any stunt, anything that would cause serious pain. Nothing was off.
Oh, it was so
good. Within 2 weeks, the ratings were higher than any MTV show in history. That same feeling kids around the country got from the CKY videos was now amplified by millions all over the world.
And dude, here's the thing, chat, what it did. It made kids do this shit. It just did. Kids started being ridiculous. My friends were going nuts and doing stupid ass shit in carts all the time. But you know what? It was fun as fuck. And yeah,
Bam's
it was good.
whole life changed. In the blink of an eye, he was suddenly
no one listened to the fucking intro. Everyone just started doing stupid shit.
The king of Westchester. Everyone wanted to be friends with him once they saw he was on TV. It was reported by Steve-O that the early days of Jackass, stuntmen would get between $200 to $500 per stunt. So MTV was raking in millions, and the guys weren't. But Bam was. He was still making a killer amount of money from the CKY videos. By 2002, they released 4 CKY movies and different box sets, which would go on to sell over 1 million copies. So if the DVDs were $10, which was cheap at the time, that's about $10 million. Bam was driving around in brand new cars while Steve-O was doing stunts for $300. It was also in 2000 when Bam met Tony Hawk at the Tampa Pro Skate Competition. Tony invited Bam to go on his national skate tour and to be in his video game Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
Dude! Sell out? I would sell it any day of the week to be a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I'm sorry, man. I would sell it any day of the week if I could be a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. That is sick. That is sick.
So with Bam being on Jackass, the most successful MTV show, CKY videos selling out all over, becoming a wildly successful indie film, and kids playing as him in one of the most successful video game series of 2001, basically he was on top of the world at age 22. At this point, his father, Phil Margera, quit his job as an Acme grocery store baker and became his accountant full-time. Managing his finances was his new career that he still does to this day. Paramount Pictures decided to make a budget for the Jackass movie in light of all the TV success. In October 2002, Jackass the movie hit theaters. Though controversial, the film had a budget of about $5 million and grossed $79 million worldwide.
Yeah, that's huge.
It was safe to say this was a massive hit. We don't know what types of deals were negotiated. I believe Johnny Knoxville made the most since he was producer, but I think it's safe to say the money was rolling in for Bam. MTV, of course, needed a spin-off for Jackass after it was done.
It probably hurt like a bitch.
So they offered one show to Bam called Viva La Bam and one show to Steve-O and Chris Pontius called Wild Boys.
Dude, Steve-O must have... what? You just saw that punch he got? If my friend did that, I'd react. I would just punch back. The fact that he didn't punch back, that's pretty impressive. If someone punched me on the head like what he just did, I would immediately turn around and try to hit you. It'd be just anger. I don't know how the hell you let that happen.
Viva La Bam was basically a show about Bam and his friends doing stunts, skating, and traveling the world. There was also an ongoing theme in the show where Bam would absolutely terrorize his parents as well as destroy their house. Luckily, in season 2, he purchased Castle Bam in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which would basically become a 14-acre adult amusement park. Bam was given a budget of $300,000 per episode, in which he would keep about $40,000. I believe the show ran for about 60 episodes, so yeah, millions of dollars. He built an entire indoor skate
not
park,
as much as
a
I thought.
full casino that was suspended up in the trees. He would travel all around the world, buy cars to demolish them and blow them up. He did a full Civil War reenactment. Absolutely anything he wanted to do, MTV was willing to pay for it. A lot of the times, they even told him his ideas weren't crazy enough. MTV didn't realize how long it would take for skaters to
It's a good network.
land their tricks. So it wasn't really worth their time to sit there for hours while someone is trying a skate trick only for them to land it and it takes 5 seconds of the show. So they kind of forced him to stop skating. At this point, he stopped fulfilling his duties as a sponsored skater, and his whole life became, how can I cause absolute chaos from the moment I wake up until everyone goes to sleep for the next 3 years? Up until this point, Bam actually stayed clear of drugs and alcohol. He maintained a sober life and was motivated by just having fun with his friends, and of course making money. Almost none of his friends were sober though. In fact, his 2 best friends, Ryan Dunn and Brendan Novak, were long-term addicts. Bam would constantly kick Brendan out of his house and his life for getting high and bringing drugs around. Dunn's drug of choice was alcohol. At about age 25, Bam started picking up the booze himself. He was infatuated with the rock star lifestyle, and his favorite band of all time, Him, introduced Bam to how rock stars get down. But after 3 years straight of chaos every day, Bam needed a break. He was exhausted. And in 2005, the show ended only because he just didn't want to do it anymore. But this break lasted about 2 weeks before he realized that he was extremely bored and had no other hobbies since his life was just recklessness with a multi-million-dollar budget. So he just drank all the time. I do feel like I have to mention this too. Money was rolling in by the boatloads. He was in every Tony Hawk Pro Skater game, including one where he was on the cover. He was in commercials, selling more skateboards than Tony Hawk through Element. At one point, Bam was selling 40,000 skateboards per month. And
Holy
Tony Hawk was selling
shit!
about 13,000. Because Bam would make merch and make his skateboards be pink, which wasn't really done before, so all his female fans would just buy the board and hang it up on their wall. And once he started going really hard with branding his heartogram, merchandise was just selling. He sold sunglasses, watches, clothing, sneakers. I mean, Bam could not stop making money. At one point, he said he had around $20 million that his father was managing. Now that the show was over, he wanted to go back to skating, the thing he loved the most. But he couldn't, because he basically stopped skating for 2 to 3 years, and he wasn't that good anymore. He was so famous that any park he went to, he would be swarmed by kids trying to get a photo or an autograph, and he would spend all his time entertaining them so he couldn't skate. He had this image of a badass skateboarder, so if he showed up at a park rusty and sucking, he would look terrible in front of everyone. And he let that get to his head, which resulted in him just abandoning the sport. Luckily, Jackass got picked up for another movie, and filming began for that. Jackass Part 2 came out in 2006, and of course was a huge success. $86 million in the box office worldwide first week. Bam wanted the party back in his life, so he pitched another show called Bam's Unholy Union, which was a show about planning his wedding with his now ex-wife, Missy Rothstein. The show was basically Viva La Bam, pranks, skits, shit up, but with another side where his wife and mother April were planning the wedding. His relationship with MTV would end during season 1 because they wanted him to get his wife pregnant so they could have a plot for season 2.
Bro, MTV, you should get canceled for that shit.
Bam freaked out on them for wanting
you guys are content fiends, bro. What the fuck, MTV?
him to bring a literal human in the world just for financial gain. So in mid-2007, Bam was 28 and had no more daily chaos in his life. Well, technically. He basically kept living the Viva La Bam lifestyle, except he wasn't getting paid for it.
Yeah, E-Rob can have his own show.
Random people would show up to Castle Bam to hang out, get drunk, and party. And if Bam was out of town, traveling for business, or in Europe, people would just throw parties at his house. He was very liberal with the gate code, so everyone knew it. Plus, the county and the town and all the cops in Westchester knew about his craziness after them filming the show for 5-6 years at this point. So it wasn't weird to have 100 people partying at his place. He filmed an indie movie called Where the F is Santa, which was basically an extended Bam's Unholy Union episode with pranks and all the same nonsense that he had been doing for over a decade. Not sure what the success was for this film, but it was clear that Bam could not move on from the life that he had. He wanted to just keep doing another movie or another show that consisted of the same chaos and rebelliousness that ensued since he was 20. Then in 2009 came another CKY indie film called Ming Hags, which again was just Bam trying to recreate a moment that wasn't there anymore. I mean, sure, his fans loved it, but I'm also sure most of y'all never knew this existed. He managed to land another TV show on Spike TV called Bam's World Domination, a show with him and Ryan Dunn, which aired on Spike for one episode, one evening at 11:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, which happened to be 2 days before the Jackass film. It was a hilarious episode and had a ton of potential, but nobody really knows why it didn't continue. Luckily for Bam, Jackass was back for another film, Jackass 3D. So he was filming that for all of 2009, which would release in October 2010 and would be the most successful Jackass yet.
This one blew up.
$171 million global box office first week, double from both the previous films. Living off the high of Jackass again, Bam still spent most of his days partying, traveling with CKY, and living the rock star life. But in the summer of 2011, Bam's world would get flipped upside down.
Jackass star Ryan Dunn has been killed.
Dunn's Porsche might have been traveling as fast as 130 miles per hour.
Fellow Jackass star Bam Margera was actually in Arizona when he got the call. He said shook his world, informing him that his best friend, he considers his brother, was killed in a fiery crash.
Bam's best friend, since he was 10 years old, passes away. Ryan Dunn was his creative partner. He was there for everything. Whenever Bam had an idea, he discussed it with Ryan. If he wanted to film a stunt, Ryan was the first guy ready to do it. He had spent the past 15 years attached at the hip with this man.
I don't remember where I was. I think I kind of do. I think it was in my basement.
He basically was the only true friend who stuck with him through all the ups and downs. Now, he was gone. This would be the beginning of the downward spiral that Bam still has not figured out to this day. Bam did a lot of press immediately after Ryan died. I guess he felt the need to talk about it, like he needed to get something off of his chest. He was doing radio interviews and podcasts like a week after Ryan passed. He also
Wait, was Ryan done drinking and driving, or was he just driving recklessly? How fast was he going? Well, he was going 140 or whatever, but he was drinking too.
Also made some public appearances
very
in 2011 where he seemed to be okay, but these days were dark for him. He would lock himself in his basement just watching old footage of him and Dunn, getting drunk and not talking to anyone for weeks at a time. He started working on a movie, which was a tribute to Ryan Dunn, which still never came out. He still wasn't skating, and the only time he would go out of the house was to the bar or on a CKY tour where he would perform some of their songs. He went through a divorce with his wife in 2012, which I can imagine was a direct correlation to losing his best friend. In 2013, he started to gain a lot of weight, officially touring with his own band called Face Unstoppable, which was literally just CKY with him, still partying every night and waking up in the morning to not face his demons once again. But he did get married to his current wife, Nicole Boyd, which I suppose was good that he had some type of stability. And after 2 years of getting drunk, doing rock shows, and avoiding his reality, he actually managed to land another TV show in 2014, Bam's Badass Game Show. 1 season, 6 episodes, all aired within 1 month on TBS. The average viewership was less than 1 million. People were pretty harsh on this show. It wasn't actually that bad, but it promised to feature contestants doing stunts similar to Jackass, but ordinary people doing them, which was kind of interesting. But the stunts were just not as crazy, like even less crazy than Fear Factor. Plus,
well, I feel like there's like a window clearly of you being an idiot, right? Like it's probably from somewhere between 16 and 30. I would say like once you hit 30, like there's no way you're 40 years old and still doing crazy ass stunts like you were when you're 18. It's just not, especially decade of drinking nonstop and partying. It's just not gonna happen. There's just no way.
the casting was full of
unless you're Steve-O. Now that guy is different.
Horny people, and Bam himself wasn't doing any of the stunts, which is probably what people wanted. The show ran for a month and then got canceled. I'm sure this didn't help Bam's confidence in
Johnny Knoxville's 50? He's 51. Wait a minute. So that means in Jackass 3, which was 2009? Or Jackass 2000, like the first Jackass. He was 30. Wait a minute, chap. Turn those frowns upside down. That means that older people can do stuff, and we're able to move.
And wanting to do work
That's a good
anymore,
thing.
so it was back to the basement.
So it doesn't mean 30 is old and disheveled. It means that you actually could be, Johnny Knoxville.
Dunn's memories. In 2015, the Ride channel posted a trailer for his movie about Dunn, which was called I Needed Some Time to Be Useless. There was a lot of hype on it. I think putting out this movie might have been a good way to close the door on the past and move forward with his life. But what actually happened was it kept the salt on Bam's wounds while making it. He couldn't ever perfect the movie nor finish it. In a 2017 interview, he talked about how he still couldn't finish the movie because the end of the movie needs to be Bam moving on with his life and not to repeat old patterns. But that is not his reality still to this day, which is why this movie still can't come out. Also, in case you were wondering, Castle Bam was still a never-ending episode of Viva La Bam. He kept drunks and addicts sleeping all over his house and partying every night just to relive the old days. The only problem was none of these people were his actual friends. They were going nowhere in life, and Bam had enough money to buy them whatever they wanted. The movie never came out, and Bam had made the best decision of his life sometime in 2016. He was finally fed up with the way he was living and the way he looked. He moved to Estonia with his wife, left everyone he knew back at the castle, and spent 6 months there losing weight and getting healthy. He then moved to Barcelona where he was going to learn how to skate again. At this point, Bam had barely even skated for the past 10 years. He had to relearn everything, and he couldn't be drunk while he was doing this either. He remained sober for about a year while relearning his first passion. Keep in mind, at this point he's 38, so he wasn't going to be as good as his 20-year-old self. There were some tricks he was just not going to be able to ever do again. In 2017, he moved back to the States and did a lot of press. He seemed to be in great spirits. He seemed to be sober. He was skateboarding again, and it was looking like Bam closed the book on the past. His mother, April, had the idea of putting Castle Bam on Airbnb while he was in Europe, so she spent the whole year getting it ready to put it on the rental market. It was a huge hit immediately, and she got it booked for about a whole year straight. Bam didn't love the idea, but once it became successful, he was okay with it. At the end of 2017, Phoenix Margera was born, which was his first child. So now he was back in Westchester with a new home, a new child, and a fresh outlook on life. Unfortunately, this wouldn't last long. The worst thing for him was being back in Westchester. The same old town, the same old friends, with Castle Bam being right around the corner. It was like a lingering demon just tempting Bam to go back to his old ways. In late 2018, he did, throwing parties, trying to recreate a moment once again. 2019 was a dark year, one where he didn't seem to recover from. He started off the year going to a rehab in which he left after just 10 days. And I didn't really mention this, but honestly, for the past 10 years, he had been in and out of rehabs. He started a comedy and storytelling tour, in which I assume he probably just needed some money or something to do. He was basically just in a drunken, rambling stupor on stage. It's kind of difficult to watch. On this
Average
tour,
comedian.
he famously went crazy on his manager and his wife because they showed up to one of the comedy shows 2 hours early and nobody was there. Obviously, this freak out was unjustified, and his outrage most likely came from the drugs and alcohol. His longtime friend and heroin addict, Brendan Novak, told the story of Bam taking care of him for years, making him get sober, and everything he did to stop him from doing. But now the roles are reversed. Brendan is sober and getting his life together, and Bam is the one who can't stop. I also haven't mentioned this at all, but Bam has an unhealthy relationship with Instagram. He basically posts all facets of his life on there since 2012. You can tell when Bam is going through a rough time just based on what he posts on there. The comment section is constantly filled with people begging him to get help or begging him to stay sober. I could make a 3-hour video on just his Instagram. Summer of 2019, he claimed he was fed up with living the way he was, and the only person that could help him was Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, I need your help in a big way.
His Instagram turned into a place to share his manic
It's
episodes.
the modern world of Dr. K. Like, I feel like, is Dr. Phil the Dr. K of what everyone thinks? You know what I mean? Dr. K for, like, the Twitch world is, like, seen as, like, the doctor. I guess Dr. K is, like, the big shot. Dr. Phil's a piece of shit. We'll watch that video next.
He did get on Dr. Phil, but it was pretty pathetic. It was evident that he was a spoiled kid who got everything he wanted in life. Yeah, he did work hard, but his parents never told him no. Nobody ever told him no. He never grew up, and truthfully, he didn't want to. His parents have been managing his life literally since he was born. He attended another rehab in 2019, and this is where Jeff Tremaine approached him about Jackass Forever. Jeff made him sign a wellness agreement basically stating that he would remain off drugs and alcohol during the filming of the new movie. Bam agreed and signed the papers. Although he wasn't cured after rehab and Dr. Phil, it seems like the Jackass team was committed to keeping him sober, and Bam probably wanted the $5 million salary from the movie, so he held it together. Apparently, he had to blow into a breathalyzer 3 times a day and do random drug tests multiple times per week. Throughout 2020, it seemed like he was keeping it together for the most part. With the strict rules from the Jackass film, I'm sure it was hard to get around them. But in the beginning of 2021, he was fired from the film. Bam allegedly was on a road trip and took an Adderall, which was a drug that he was prescribed, yet also addicted to for many years.
I've been on Adderall for 13 years, 2 a day at 20 milligrams, and they don't want me to take it anymore, and I found myself sleeping all day. Well, I found a loose one in my car on my road trip, and I took it.
He had to go to an urgent care that day to fulfill Jackass requirements and take a drug test, but he knew he would fail. He skipped the test and checked himself into a Florida rehab instead, but this wasn't good enough. He broke the wellness agreement, so he was fired. Bam's response was in a now deleted rant on Instagram.
Who the cares if I'm drunk as hell or not anymore?
One of his main arguments was that Jackass was always filmed while the guys were drunk and on drugs, so why is now any different? He doesn't seem to understand that now they are all much older, in their 40s, and it's time to grow up. Jackass coming back means the new gimmick is that a bunch of old guys are doing stunts, not crazy 20-year-olds. They're making the film for the money and nostalgia, not to ruin their lives again. But
oh my god, stop saying Miz. You realize he's saying 20-year-olds. I'm in my 20s, you dumb bitch. They don't fucking... I can't. Today's theme is Mizkif, you're getting old, and I really hate that theme.
Bam has his
I'm 27, Chad. I'm not 42. Not for long? No, I would say for 15 years exactly is about how long I won't be 42.
parents still taking care of his finances and responsibilities. He always did whatever he wanted and had everyone else handle the hard stuff. He still thinks he's a kid. He broke the wellness agreement. Simple as that. Now you have to face the consequences. It's really unclear how his year was going after this. When times are rough, he deletes all the comments from his Instagram and posts throwback pictures. That's usually a sign that he has his phone taken away. He did file a lawsuit against Paramount, Jeff Tremaine, Johnny Knoxville, and many others associated with the film, claiming that he was forced to sign this wellness agreement that led to psychological torture and that they
Dude, look at his fucking finger. Look at this thing. Just look at his finger and what has happened over the past 20 years of pain and suffering. Look at that.
Hired him to steal his creative input and save money on the film. Jackass was once 50% CKY members and 50% Big Brother LA members. Now almost nobody from CKY are on the film. After the lawsuit and the antics in the beginning of 2021, he did a little bit of skating with Thrasher and even collaborated with Danny Duncan. But for the past 6 months or so, his Instagram has just been a bunch of throwback photos with the comments turned off. His wife recently filed for full custody of his child, but not a divorce, which I don't really know why or what that even means for their relationship.
Yeah, that's weird.
Addiction is a vicious cycle, and it may seem like I was being hard on Bam, but truthfully, I feel for anyone struggling with addiction. It's something that's impacted my life a lot. We aren't really sure where Bam is at today. Maybe in a rehab, hopefully accepting that his life has changed a lot. I think quitting skateboarding due to his ego of not being the best anymore was one of the worst things for him, because now he is too old and out of shape to do what he once could, which prevents him from staying focused. He has tons of real friends out there, Steve-O, Brendan Novak, Rab, that will actually help him get better and be a positive influence. But you have to want to get better. He needs to accept that the Viva La Bam days are over. It's time to grow up, kick everybody out of Castle Bam, and be a father to your son. He could still get into producing movies or...
I don't think that's the move for him to go back to that castle. I think he should just fucking move to somewhere else and just get the hell away from Pennsylvania. I don't think he should go anywhere near that castle. He should just, honestly, just move to LA or something.